What's up, YouTube? ODST General back again with another Operation Trebuchet update. It's been a while, so once again, this will be another big update for you guys, but hopefully we've got a lot of cool stuff in here that'll tide your appetites. Once again, we will also be splitting this into a two-parter. This first part will concentrate on stuff that's work in progress, while the second part will concentrate on recently released stuff for OpCan and OpTrayZ. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The first thing we've got is a hangar bay. Unfortunately, I don't know who made this. I can't remember. Some of this stuff's quite old, and it's just been a while since my last update. This basically came out around the same time I did my last update video, and the guy who made this isn't somebody I don't think was part of the dev team. I think it was just a community member trying to make an effort to actually make some content for the mod. I haven't heard or seen anything from it since then, so I don't know if this is still around, if we're still going to see this. Personally, I think it's pretty cool. I know some of the other devs or some of the other community members said it was maybe a little too big, maybe to make it just one hangar. Personally, though, either way, I think it's pretty great. So, we're going to go ahead and just keep moving on from that one because there's not much else to say about it. Now we're moving into the MA37. Now this one I do know who made it. This one was made by Zephyr Souza. Right now as it stands, it's nearly completed, I believe. I think it's probably still needs config stuff set up, but as far as the model and stuff goes, I think pretty much all of that stuff is done at this point, although I could be mistaken. As of right now, the MA37 here was dropped for basically in favor of doing some other projects she's working on. As you go through the pictures, you'll see some scopes on top. That was some kind of theoretical stuff that Zephyr would potentially do with the scopes. I don't know if that's something was still in the plans. I've since seen some concept stuff with the MA37 where there's alternate ammo counters that clip on there that you can kind of tell that's a rail system in the back. Where it looks like they had some potential scopes that would clip on there, and they are a little bit higher, just a tad bit higher than the ammo counter hangs over that. So I don't know if that's something we'll see. Most of the rest of the pictures beyond that, though, is just kind of works in progress of the model and stuff. You can see that the whole ammo counter ended up being like a rail system. Zephyr said that chances are this will not have a working ammo counter, unlike the MA5 and stuff, just because she doesn't quite know how that was done. So maybe it will, maybe it won't, we'll see. Beyond that, though, that's the MA37. It's definitely something I'm very excited for. I can't wait for work to resume on that so it gets finished up, because it's so close to getting there, I feel like, at least at the rate she went with the MA5K. Beyond that, we've got a very, very early block out of the Vulture. So, I'm not very happy about the Vulture, as odd as that might sound. The Vulture is a cool vehicle in the Halo lore. I like the vehicle, but my issue with it is that, Zephyr came to my unit and a few other units, and she asked us, what do you guys want to see as far as assets are made? And she gave us a list of different things that would possibly be made, and my unit voted for the Vulture. The only issue I have with the Vulture is that I really don't see it being used a whole lot by anybody, my own unit included. Nobody uses the longsword as it is. The longsword's awesome, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see it used more. It's just not really a viable piece of equipment. I feel the Vulture is probably going to be the same way. Maybe because it's a VTOL aircraft more so than the longsword is. It's not as big, and it's actually meant to hover. Maybe that will be a little bit different. Maybe we will see them in use. I don't really know. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, we see a lot of the Hornets and stuff in various ops, so we'll see. But let's keep this ball rolling here, because that's a long, long ways out from being finished, and it's low priority as it stands right now. So up next, we've got an update on the female Marines. So I talked about these in the last update, and I think maybe even the one before. Got some bad news for you guys here. This is going to be some of the worst news in this update. this project was canceled by Zephyr Souza. At the time, they didn't really know that they could do skeletons that were vastly vastly different from the male bodies that are already in Arma. They have since figured out a method how to do that. However, priorities had already shifted at that point, so this project is, as it stands right now, indefinitely canceled. Maybe Zephyr still has the stuff. I'm assuming she probably still has the models and stuff like that, so maybe now that she knows how to do the skeletons and stuff at a later date, she'll revisit that. But it is still a lot of work to redo all of that stuff, so I don't know if we will or will not see that. But yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. Just want to keep you guys updated on that. Up next, we've got a very, very early draft of a Jackal. So you guys may not know this. In fact, I'm banking that most of you don't know this. Zephyr Souza not only works with the Operation Trebuchet mod, but the Installation 01 mod. Installation 01 is a very cool project that's being worked on. I have not covered it. I haven't played it myself, but I'm probably going to be doing some coverage of it soon, I'm thinking. So that's just another Halo mod in the works if you guys aren't familiar with it. Check it out. It's pretty cool stuff from what it sounds like. Anyways, as I've stated, they did figure out a way to potentially adapt the skeletons of these different models are so vastly different from the human males in Arma. So we may be seeing some Covenants. So this Jackal's pretty low priority as it stands too, from what I can tell. We've seen some more advanced stuff with its hands being put further along, stuff like that. I don't have those images on my PC, and they're from a while back, so I couldn't find them on the Discord chat. They're somewhere, though. So sorry, guys, I don't have that stuff, but suffice it to say we might see a Jackal down the line. Now, we are far more likely to see this guy down the line. If you can't tell who it is, that's probably still pretty bad, but I guess I can't blame you because there's the skeleton right now. So you can see the skeleton for the work in progress of the Grunt here. So, I mean, we might be getting a Grunt here pretty soon. Zephyr's working really, really hard on the Grunt. She's putting a lot of effort on the Grunt and the Scorpion tank right now. So the Grunts actually was originally designed for Installation 01. Zephyr doesn't know if they'll use it or not, but she's trying to adapt it so that it can be used in Operation Trebuchet as well. So hopefully we see it in both, if not at least one of the two mods. I'm hoping for Optre at the very least. Right now, though, we haven't seen the Grunt in game, anything like that, unfortunately, so it's just still working on all the skeletal issues. There's some animations she's posted and stuff, but it's just mainly playing around with the Grunt skeleton to make it like dance and stuff like that. So let's keep moving on. Speaking of the other thing, the Scorpion I just previously mentioned, I've got some good and bad news there too. We'll start with the bad news. So, in the last video I posted some footage of a in-game working Scorpion. That model is gone. The guy who made that white frames had a fire in his home, unfortunately. His hard drive was damaged beyond repair. He lost most of the Scorpion. He did find a backup of the Scorpion, however, it was in a far less completed state. So it's going to take some work to get it back in. It looks like they've already partially gotten Scorpion back in, and I forgot to include the GIF for that, so I do have to apologize, guys. I probably won't put it in, but since I'm just kind of rambling right now, you know what? Maybe I'll put it in right in this spot right here. We'll see. Anyways, the first image we've got is Zephyr's work on Scorpion tank. So Zephyr wants to make the Scorpion tank a two-person tank, just because it fits easier with Arma. It doesn't need any scripting or anything that way. So we can see the cockpits for the gunner and the pilot or driver, whatever you want to call them. It's a very, very small cockpit here. Chances are it'll be laid out very similar to an aircraft, actually. How the gunner will see, how the driver will see, I'm not sure. Because there's a few different versions of the Scorpion tank we've seen developed for the mod at this point. I don't know which one or if multiple will be used. because we've seen one-person versions, we've seen two-person versions, we've seen it with the cockpits completely covered by metal. We've seen the version from like Reach where there's glass around the driver. So at this point, I don't know which one they're going to go with, because it still looks like they're developing both Whiteframe's original one that was in game, and he's trying to rebuild that up, as well as the one Zephyr's been working on prior to that. So we'll see how that goes. We've got some more footage, or some more images of it here. Here's another shot of the interior in a little bit earlier of a state, but this gives you an idea of the layout of it, or how we're probably going to look at it. You got a couple of view screens there, as well as like your controls right between your legs. This image is fantastic. This is Whiteframe's Scorpion tank at one point in time. I don't know if this is the original one or if this is the rebuilt up version he did. As you guys can see, that's got that glass cockpit. This is like the Reach version, I think. And it's a size comparison to a T90. Yeah, so you guys are probably sitting there just like, are you kidding me? The thing's massive. But, you know, when you look at it for a while, you gotta go, well, you know what? Actually, it's not that much bigger when you think about it. Obviously, the turret's significantly higher, but you figure with this tank, this version of it looks like it's a one-person version of the tank. You've got your driver and that glass cockpit, and he controls the turret and everything else. So he's also acting as the commander. So where does the commander sit in a conventional modern-day tank? Near the top in the turret, where he can pop out of that turret and look around and view everything he needs to view from outside the tank or inside the tank. You know, so he's sitting in a similar position. He can see all around him like the other tank commander can. So he's in about the same height. You know, the tracks of the tank are about the same height, maybe a tad bit, maybe a tiny bit higher, if that. It's hard to say, but just barely if they are. The biggest difference comes from width and the turret. The turret is the part that makes this way higher. You know, and that's where you're seeing the biggest difference come from, is that the turret's like a second T-80 stacked on top there. But that's why the Scorpion tank was designed like that, so you could park it behind cover and have your turret sticking out above the cover, shooting over the cover. I mean, it's a pretty cool design. But we're not going to stick on that too much longer. I've already talked about that one picture too long, so let's keep moving. Now we got good old Big Wilk here. So he's been working on a lot of structures and maps and all sorts of stuff, just learning about all sorts of different things and trying to contribute to Optrade in a million different ways. The first thing we've got is a rural structure. Now, I do believe I featured a tiny bit of this building in an older form in the last video, but here we've got like a farmhouse type of deal. This is it in Substance Painter, so this is a texturing and everything for it. Bear in mind that the lighting and stuff is not in-game yet, but we do have some in-game screenshots of it as well. So here we can see it in-game. No textures applied. As far as I can tell, there's no shadowing, anything else applied. It's just the white boxed out version. It looks like they've got animations presumably working with that door, but I don't know. I mean, the door's open in the other versions we see. Like in every other version I can see with the door is open, so I don't know if that's animated or not. But you can see there's some shelves and stuff in there. And then there's some other shots of the room. From the other side, there's, you know, a big barn door that looks like that probably does open at the other end. Very large building, not a lot inside of it, but that's okay. Here we can see a textured version in-game. Presumably shadows or something are applied. It's definitely a lot cooler looking, though, than the untextured version, but yeah, it fits really well, I think, and, you know, it's going to be excellent for those rural farming maps and stuff, and still give it that kind of Halo feel. Here we can see it placed onto an Altus beach, you know, and it just goes to show that despite the fact that it shouldn't fit, it looks like it goes quite well on a beach. I guess, I don't know. And then there's one final shot from that, which is a keypad. Now, at the time, Wilk had said he wanted to try and implement keypads into the game in some way, shape, or form. Looks like we will see that, but I'll talk more about that in just a minute here. We're going to keep moving on, though, for a second. Here we've got a more urban structure. This structure, as you can see in the next picture, is inspired by a structure in Elysium City. It's about as close as he could get to a one-to-one copy of it. There's some differences in the texture. Well, there's no texture yet, I guess, but like the stairs are slightly different, and a few other things. If I really wanted to nitpick it, I could find pretty easily, but you know, it's just a solid extra structure. It's not something that you can walk inside of or anything, but you know, it's just another set piece, and that's okay. So here we are to that keypad that I previously mentioned. This is on a different building. Just Big Wilkins do not eat things. So he didn't think this text would be legible. As it turns out, when you pull it up, it is legible very clearly. He said he will not be removing it. So please don't eat the keypad or anything else in op tray, except for the rations. You can have the rations. They just won't taste good. But, yeah, so the keypad's working, at least in some way, shape, or form. As far as I can tell, I guess this is, this pops up when you're in there when you go to use the keypad, and you type in the keypad for a 4-digit password to get into, locked facilities. Moving on, we're going back to those command structures I showed off in the previous videos. I showed off some, mostly untextured, undesigned interiors. There might have been a couple set pieces placed in here. Well, Big Wilk has gone back. He's retextured them. And, yeah, so we've got some computer panels just showing some random UNSC information in these command bunkers. You can see in the second picture here that the bunker itself still appears to be untextured as far as I can tell. But, the computer terminals and all that stuff looking very Halo, except for the www.ratemyhorse.earth. I don't know what that's about, but Will really likes horses, I guess. I don't judge. It's, I guess the UK is a free country, so you gotta do what you gotta do, Big Wilk. I'll say that. Thank you for developing for the mod. Yeah. Anyways, Big Wilk is by no means done with that stuff, though. He's got a lot more stuff he's working on. So we've got to talk some more about structures and a little bit about the Blood Gulch Coagulation and Valhalla, whatever the heck you want to call it, map. Obviously, as I mentioned in the previous video as well, he's been working on implementing multiplayer maps, and his first one is his own version of Blood Gulch or Coagulation, whichever one you like to see it as. This will be unique to Arma 3 and Optray as well. It's not a one-to-one copy, so bear that in mind. But here we can see his completed primary structure. This one's more of a UNSC fortification than the ones we see on Blood Gulch and Coagulation. Those command bunkers are in the background. And then the elevator things I've shown off in previous videos, those are finalized too. And I'll actually have some video for you guys here in just a second. So we'll get into that in just a minute here. And first we're just going to cover a couple other things. Sorry, guys. Just go without stopping. So sometimes I have to kind of catch back up with myself. Beyond that, we've got a selection menu, another menu for the elevator. So you select what vehicle you want. You go up here and you say, I want to get a anti-air Warthog, and it's going to be a tan one. Okay. You click request vehicle, and it spawns the vehicle on the lift, lifts the vehicle up. It seems to work like a charm from the video, so you guys will get to see that in a minute too. Here's another interior of the bunker. This one's redesigned as a bunkhouse. You've got your bunk beds, your armory stuff, and a marine or something in the end there. Here we can see the elevators as they're working once fully lifted up. One is in the process of either bringing down or bringing up some Warthogs, and the other one's even more descended. Another shot of those bunkers. This looks like the stuff is still being placed. You can see those bunk beds are just kind of hanging out in the open. He's got Marines milling about everywhere. Big shot of the planet in the background, which I'll have another shot of that for you in just a second here. As you can see, this is another shot of the map. This one's a little bit older than the previous pictures, but still pretty cool. The massive planet just makes it feel very alien. And then we've got a nighttime shot of that same planet. This is very dark. I told Wilk this looks very dark, and once he realized I was talking about the nighttime variant, he did agree. He said he's going to look at trying to make it so it's a little bit lighter at night if possible. Just because, you know, with a planetary body that close, it should be reflecting more light off of it than what it is. Unless it's, you know, blocking out the sun, I guess. But then it should be really dark. Alright, so I'm going to stop for just a second here while I let you guys watch this video. And I will be right back with you guys. Alright, and welcome back, guys. So, getting back into it, we're going to leave Wilk behind here for just a minute. And we're going to get into some, I guess will probably be included in OpCan, maybe. This stuff's being developed by Burgess, who does all the OpCan stuff. I have no idea if that's where he intends to release it. I am presuming that's the case, though. So let's take a look what he's got here. So the first thing we've got is a armory that he's got work in progress here. And it's this first version is like in Blender or whatever modeling program he uses. Very basic stuff. But very quickly we see he's got it in game here. Untextured and stuff in this first image, but you can see it's got some form of collision or something's going on. Obviously, the marine in that image is able to stand on it. So this is basically supposed to be a forward operating base armory. Something that's supposed to be just kind of an armory for out in the field. It fits in design aesthetically with the pre-existing Arma 3 vanilla fortifications, which is okay. A lot of people still tend to use those, and it's very clear why, because there's not a lot of stuff from Optray that feels like it fits out in the middle of a field, you know, or something like that, so they tend to feel like they're good, hasty fortifications for UNSC. Beyond that, we get into some of the more textured versions. Here you can see we've got your desert, urban / winter scheme, and then your woodland scheme. And then we step back inside for the textured inside of that. You can see all of your armory cases are placed inside there. Presumably you'll have to do that when you get in there yourself. I'm sure they won't spawn in with it. And then just a little sign saying caution, loaded weapons. Show the backside of it, just saying it's for UNSCDF, Mishra armories, and, you know, basically the model. And then we're getting into something else. So we've got a brute hammer here. This one, I don't know. Burgess's weapon records, or his weapon track records, not the greatest, but this is far better model than I can do, so we're going to put it in here. Fingers crossed. I want him to succeed, so, you know, good luck to you, man. If you're watching this video, I don't know if you watch any of these. If you do, you know, just keep at it, man. I hope you get it done, and we're going to keep moving on. So we've got some static weapons that he's working on as well. I think these are from Vanilla Arma. I've not actually seen these in game, but that's where everybody seems to say they're from. I'm not sure if they're part of like the Jets DLC or something like that. But he's working on retexturing these, and he's going to move one of the platforms over, if he hasn't already, to the missile pod, if I understand correctly. They do look a lot like the weapons in Halo Reach and stuff, so they fit very well. And they look sci-fi, with especially the big canister on the Gatling gun there. Not much else I can say about those now. I haven't seen them working, and I haven't seen the original versions even. So I'm just going to leave that as it is. As you guys can see, there is some Halo 3 Marines. If you guys want to know about those, if you haven't heard about them already, keep tuned for my next episode, because like I said, I will be talking about some more OpCan stuff and Optrazy in the next video. Going on to the next one, though, we've got some more stuff from White Frames here. He's got a mobile radar trailer. I don't know if we ever see anything like this in Halo, but it's going to be very useful here with the Jets DLC coming out. Basically, what you guys will see when the Jets DLC comes out, at least everybody should see, is things like this radar trailer will be able to share that information with nearby allies and stuff. So if a radar trailer detects a jet or whatever, it can share that with everybody in the faction, or at least everybody nearby. So having stuff like this will be very important, especially if you run ops that combat against like longswords, hornets, even pelicans. You know, if you guys have an enemy trying to insert a pelican and they're not being very careful about how they insert in, this radar will pick it up. And then we've just got the unfolded version of that as well. And then we're going to shift gears here. We're going to get into the Covenant. Still no release for First Contact, though. Sorry, guys. Gonna say now. But we get to see the Shadow, or the Covenant bus as it's well known. And we get to see a couple different versions of this. We've looked at it a few times before. I believe this is the first time we're seeing it fully textured, maybe. Stuff with First Contact is so far and few between. I can't remember what I have and have not said. Just the way it is, guys. I do apologize. The first one on the top left is, of course, the infantry transport. To the right of that, we've got a supply vehicle, fuel, something like that. Then we've got the armored version, where that looks like it's the infantry transport as well, but it's got the armor that folds up and folds down to protect people riding on it. Not much else to say. Don't know when we'll see a release for this. So just hang in there, keep tight with it, guys. But we're not done with First Contact information yet, because we've got the Covenant Corvette. I showed off an untextured version of this previously. Drake Darren's gotten it textured. I believe the images shown are from Substance Painter, I'm not sure. But here it is, looks very awesome. If Morthon's still working on his Covenant Cruiser, it will be a great set piece to have alongside of that. Speaking of Morthon, this is going to be some of my favorite part of the news here. Morthon, along with Zephyr Souza, has been working on getting Covenant in-game. Morthon, as you guys know if you watch the previous videos, has worked very hard on his brutes previously. And, you know, with the Lego mod, the same mod that Zephyr's using to find the information to get the grunts in game, he's using that to get his brutes finally in and meeting his dreams that he's had for a while here. So the first picture you guys can see that's been up here for a second is the brute in game. It's got a shadow. Obviously, it's missing textures and stuff like that, but it's an awesome first start. Definitely a long way to go on it, but it's slowly getting there. Now, bear in mind when you're seeing all these animations and stuff for these guys have to be created from scratch. So there's probably going to be a lot of stuff in here that they won't have animations for, just kind of the more basic stuff, but we'll see it as it goes. Here we can see the brute holding up the spiker. You know, very much just a deadly looking enemy. Very cool, very exciting once again. Moving on, though, we've got one thing that, personally, I think the brutes should look very untrained, I guess. The brutes are kind of known for being very aggressive. There's certainly smart brutes and tactical brutes out there, like Tartarus and oh my god, Atriox and stuff. There's smart brutes, we know there are, but the vast majority of brutes are not well trained. They aren't disciplined. And so I kind of like this first picture where the brute's holding the rifle down by its hip. He's not really aiming it. He's just very aggressively got it down there. Unfortunately, with armor, that does affect the playability of these creatures. So if you're playing as a brute and you've got your rifle down at your hip, that makes it so that the shots are coming from your hip as opposed to higher up, which does actually affect how well you can engage an enemy at range. So that's something to bear in mind, and Morthon has not forgotten that. So as you guys can see in this next image, he's kind of been testing out how he wants the brutes to hold weapons and things like that, what feels like a brute and what feels unnatural, but what also works gameplay-wise. So he's raised it up, and he's made it so that when these brutes are actually engaging people with things like carbines and stuff like that, those are actually up in a position where the brutes can actually stand a chance at range and stuff like that. Kind of disappointing for me personally, because that does feel a little bit more tactical for brute, but hopefully they're so menacing and everything once they're in game, it won't matter too much. Moving on with the brutes, we've got one brute in game with some armor on it. There's a lot of shadowing and shading stuff that's not been applied, so it looks kind of off. Still pretty neat. Obviously, this is a Halo 3 brute miner. And then we've got more brutes in game. But this one's awesome. It's a whole bunch of brutes. We get to see more of the armor in game. We've got brute miners, brute majors, and I forget what they're called, like brute captains, whatever the gold ones were. And just very awesome, very menacing looking enemy. And then we're going to go back a little bit, just to rewind on some progress. And we're going to look at a video that Morthon's made here. And in this video, you guys will see him basically just got the brutes walking around. They're not using weapons. There's a lot of stuff that's not done with them. There's still a ton of work to go, guys. Anyways, I'm going to start to wrap the video up here. I'll let the rest of this video play in game. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share the video with your friends. Share it on other platforms so everybody else can check out this awesome content. And like I said, stay tuned, because there is going to be another video coming out in pretty short order covering the OpCan and OpTrayZ content. There's a lot of awesome stuff that's been added into both of those recently. And I will see you guys for the next video. Take it easy.